now we're moving on to lesson 23. This lesson we were building login page and password hashing for our users for authentication. In this lesson we implemented a hashing function for our users' passwords. Then we created a login form and action by using the bcrypt.compare method to match hashed passwords against user input on login. At the end of all of this, we added more validations on input data through an additional middleware function to sanitize the data before it's saved to our database. Right, so this is our main JS. We have connect flash to use again quickie parser express sessions, and now we have express validator as a new module that we are using in this part of the lesson here in lesson 23. First thing that we did is just create a form for the login page, and if I go to my views, go to users, on login, we have this new form here, and this form I'm just gonna run the server and just show things as we work. This form, if I go to my main.js, okay, I'm having errors here. Okay, now it's working.
Oh, it's fine.
Yeah, it's working. So we successfully connected to our database and we are running our server. And I just wanted to show on our main.js that, okay, another thing that we use there is that we took the router here and we use express validator on it, right? And also we have these new routes here, and the first one is users/login, and this imports our users controller module and it runs the login function. If I go to the login function, as you can see, all it does is that whenever there's a request, as a response it renders the user/login view, which we saw is just that it's that form that we had there, that EJS form. The second one also is, this is for a get request. The second one is for handling post requests. When you send a post request, meaning sending the form data, if we go back to our form on login.ejs, the method that is used on submit is post. So it's going to send a post request to that same route here, users/login. When we send a post request, so basically when we are trying to log in, right, when we click that sign in button, it's going to import our users controller module and it's going to run the authenticate function, and the authenticate function takes request, response and next as our parameters, and it queries the database to find one thing. We use the find one method to find one thing where the email matches the body of the email of the request, and it returns a promise. And then if that promise is resolved, we run this if statement here where we compare the password to the password that is given in the login form to the password that is in our database. And when that is resolved, that's another promise on its own. When that is resolved, we check whether the passwords match, right, by running this function here, which is just an if else statement, right? And it checks if the password matches, then you take the user to the appropriate page, and if it doesn't, it just says fail to log in to user account because of incorrect password, right? Else, if the original promise, right, the one where we query into the database, if that is not resolved, if that's rejected, we just get an error here and it takes us back, it redirects us back to that login page, right? And it tells us that there's an error logging in. And yeah, that's the authenticate function that we run when we send a post request. And then we also have this redirect view. All it does, it just takes us to the redirect part, right, to the page that we're supposed to see, and in this case that page would be the login page. So let me just show you this by going to local users/login. This is the form that we see here, and I'm just gonna look at some of the users that I have here. So we created this user recently. Actually, let me use like an OG user, and the user we've had for a while. I'm gonna use Bob. So Bob, this is his email. Let me just copy it, and this is the password, and we go to user login, trying to log in as Bob. And when I go here, I'm just gonna paste the email here, and then I'm I'm just gonna put the password here, and when I click login, you see that's the error because I gave it the incorrect password. And let me just try and get the password right this time. Okay, I'm just gonna log in as a different user. So I'm gonna give it this email here, which is a different user that we have in our users, and this is the password. I hope I got it right. And yes, you see it takes us to, it shows us the flash user test logged in successfully, and it shows us the details. And another thing is that, as you can see, the password doesn't actually show us the password, unlike Bob. It shows us a hashed version of that password, unlike Bob. Another thing that we can do with this is if we go to show.ejs, right, we can actually change this. Instead of it showing us the hash password, we can hide it, and it's going to show us these dots here, right, to hide the password. So I'm just gonna go through the hash, the function that hashes the password, which is in the user's controller. It's the authenticate or validate. You know what, Rami, I'm done with this video.